All right. Welcome, everyone. We are here today to ask some very prestigious alumni some great questions about how students should be responding during the coronavirus and how they can be successful in their schooling and moving forward into their career. I want to thank all of our guest panelists that are here today with us. First, we have VJ. I'm going to do my best. VJ Verona. I said I was going to do this. Vera Panu. You do it. You tell me, VJ. VJ, what is it? You're on mute.
I'm on mute. I was saying that was close. It's Vera Panaver.
Vera Panaver. Thank you, VJ Vera Panaver. He's the accounting manager at 313 Presents. He's a real estate investor, founder and president of Let's Go Detroit. It's a 501(c), something he's very passionate about. And he has the eventual goal of running for mayor of Detroit, which is very exciting and very awesome. VJ, thank you so much for being here today. We very much appreciate your participation.
Thank you.
We also have Josh Reeves, CFO of Walter Farms. He graduated in 2009 with a CIS degree. Here to bring us some information about the world of computer information systems and what that's like. Thank you, Josh, very much for being here as well. And my man, Jonathan Jackson, who's out there in the beautiful, great state of Arizona, labor employee relations specialist, working for Republic Services, graduated with a BA in Human Resources in 2015, a Master of Human Development and Health Ed Sports Management 2016, MBA 2017, and of course, football all-star from the great Western Michigan University. Thank you, John Jackson, for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Right. We're going to get right rolling into this, but first, for our attendees, just so you know, if you have any questions at all, go ahead and type your questions into the chat function, and we will go ahead and answer those questions. We just had Megan Weaver join us. Megan, how you doing today? I'm sorry.
So good. Can you guys hear me okay?
Good. What I meant to say was Megan Ward. I don't know why I said Megan Weaver, but Megan Ward is here. She graduated with a degree in marketing from 2013, working for Creatively Flawless. She's a brand strategist and designer. She's an awesome individual, and she's going to be here answering some questions for students as well. So thank you all so much for being here. Students, go ahead and write your questions into the chat function. Any questions that you have for the alumni. What's going to happen is Greg will read your questions out to the alumni, and they will respond in kind. This session is being recorded, so everybody knows, and will be available on the HCOB website when we are finished recording. So thank you all so much, and I think we should get started. Greg, do we have our first question?
Yeah. So I think the first thing on our thing is we would like to a little bit of a more in-depth introduction from all of our panelists.
Right on. So VJ, do you want to start?
Sure. So my name is VJ Vera Panaver. I'm a CPA in the Detroit area. I work for 313 Presents, which is the company that oversees all the events at Little Caesars Arena, Comerica Park, Fox Theater, DTE, Freedom Hill, Meadowbrook, with the exception of the professional sporting teams. Then on the side, I'm a real estate investor. I've flipped a number of houses, been involved in, I have a bunch of rentals in the Detroit area primarily. I co-founded and I'm president of Let's Go Detroit, which is a 501(c)(3 headquartered in Detroit. And our goal is to help improve the communities and educational systems of Detroit. Lastly, I'm involved in the Michigan Democratic Party with the, as you mentioned, eventual goal of running for mayor in the city.
Awesome. Very awesome. Josh, anything that you would like to add to your introduction?
Josh or John?
Josh, I'm sorry. I'll get to you next, Mr. Jackson. I'm not sure if Josh is having connectivity issues. Why don't we move on to you, John? What do you got for us?
Cool, man. John Jackson, employee labor relations at Republic Services. I started my career in Detroit as a student athlete, born and raised there. So I have a lot of Detroit connections, and through the way of education and achievement, I found my way to Western Michigan University, where I've had the wonderful opportunity to play college football, get a wonderful education, and excel in my career of human resources. Outside of the day-to-day travel of teaching our employees about what it means to bring a union in, and Section 7 of the NLRB, I do spend a lot of time working on my own business called Simple Talks, where our main focus and goal is really bridging athletes to life. And we believe that if we have authentic conversations, it will help an athlete excel further in their career and their future endeavors. So I'm happy to be here. And thank you for the wonderful people at Western Michigan giving me this wonderful opportunity, and eager to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, John. Very awesome. Simple Talks. That's really cool. All right. And Megan Ward, what else do you have for us?
Yes. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. Anytime Western asks me to be a part of impacting students, I give a yes automatically. But yeah, so I am a women's entrepreneurial activist. I know you guys are like, what is that? I made it up. I am a full-time entrepreneur, and I went to Western Michigan University for 3 years. And it was my purpose playground, to be quite honest with you all. And I really started to understand my gifts, my skill sets. And so, in short, what I do, I catapult women and individuals into their purpose so that they can live the life of their dreams. So, whatever you all are dreaming big about, best believe it can happen. But I'm super excited to share with you all, pour into you all, and hear what the other amazing alumni have to share as well.
Awesome, Megan. Thank you so much for being here. Very cool. Josh, I'll give you a shot now. You're back with us. What do you got, man? What else do you want us to know about you?
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, I graduated from Western in 2009. Kind of a lot of family there. My mom worked there. My sister still works there. I'm attending again to get my MBA on evenings, so that's a slow grind, but getting through it about halfway through the program now. But it's fun to be able to come back on campus besides the last few months during that program, and get involved where I can. Yeah, since graduation, I've worked in a few different areas throughout the Kalamazoo area. And 7 years ago, landed at Walther Farms. We're a potato farm, which doesn't sound like a lot, but we operate in 10 different states. We have 15 farms. We are one of the larger suppliers to Frito-Lay and Snyder's and Better Made if you're from the east side. Uncle Ray's is over on the east side as well, and lots of different chip manufacturers. So we grow a lot of chips. So if you eat potato chips pretty much anywhere in the country, there's a decent chance that they were grown at Walther Farms. And since I've been there, been able to work my way through the technology side of things and into the accounting and finance. And today I get to oversee all the finance, accounting, and technology throughout the organization.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Josh, for being here today. That's awesome. I've actually been out to Walther Farms before, so it's awesome to have you here.
Oh, cool.
Okay, so Greg, let's start with our first question, shall we?
Great. So we'll start with an easy one. What was your favorite part about attending WMU?
Well, I guess I can start that one, right? My perspective is a little bit different. I thought Western Michigan really matured me for the most part. Just being away from home and understanding what it is to, have time management, especially being a student athlete. It really kind of shaped and formed my mentality of how a business world would be when I stepped into it, right? From anywhere from the sense of collaboration to be strategically minded in the classroom. Those were the things that really shaped and formed me as an individual. And those are the things that I'm not only doing to this day, but I'm finding ways to excel at it even more on a bigger level. So definitely collaboration and that maturity part has really stuck out to me. You guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Who would like to go next? VJ, what do you got, man?
my favorite part of attending Western. I mean, obviously, I had a great time in terms of the social element. You make friends, but a big part of that is also networking. And I think I had a little bit different experience because when I came to Western, all of my classes that I took were right there in HCOB. I didn't have anything outside of that. Um, so something that I really enjoyed there was the resources I had. Like there was people there to help you. If I had questions about how to progress in terms of what classes to take, I mean, just people in general are very helpful. Where to apply to. So my favorite part was that it really kind of narrowed my focus of what I was trying to do and where I was trying to go. Because I kind of came in not entirely sure what I was doing. I knew I was starting a master's in accounting, but truth be told, I didn't know exactly what that meant until a lot of the professors, a lot of the resource center individuals kind of helped me really narrow that focus down. So, I mean, my favorite part is that it led me on the path to where I am now.
Nice. What about you, Megan?
Yeah, so as I was saying earlier, everyone, Western for me was a purpose playground. And I was born and raised in Detroit by a single mom. And so going to college, it was obviously something that we wanted me to do, but I went to Western with a very tunnel vision mentality. You know, my mom, she had just cashed out her 401k for me to go to college, and I couldn't fail, I couldn't, I had to go with, with an excellent mindset. And I would say the best thing about Western is the opportunities on campus. And so I transferred from U of M Dearborn, and I was there for 2 years. And then I transferred into the business school. And what I realized about Western is that there's so many extracurricular activities where you can exercise your gifts. So one of the organizations I was a part of was MODA, which is the fashion organization. And I really leveraged that student org to exercise my leadership skills. And I kid you guys not, the same exact things that I learned in that organization, I still use to this day in my business.
Wow, so some real practical application that you're able to take away from an experience like that to make your career.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Awesome, Megan. Thank you. Josh, what do you think?
Yeah, I think kind of a similar theme, but getting involved. So I transferred in from community college, and I didn't have that, the dorm friends kind of thing that I looked around and I saw a lot of people had. So I had a professor that said, get involved, go look and see what all is around in HCOB that you can get involved in, and fell into Delta Sigma Pi and held a few leadership positions in that. So just getting involved in that has led to obviously the networking while you're there, but the friendships that I still have today, that I still see a lot of those same people that were near my graduating class. And through that, actually, and my wife would kill me if she knew I didn't bring it up to start with, but I met my wife through some friends through DSP as well. So she went to Western, and so I gotta say that's the best part. But besides that, the other networking and the other opportunities to get involved and just learn so much more than just going to class.
Right on. Okay, thank you so much. Greg, what do we have next?
Yeah. So what is something that you wish you would have spent more time on in college?
I think the question was, what is something that you wish you would have spent more time on when you went to college? Let's start with let's go in reverse now. Josh, what do you think?
So I worked in technology for about 10 years before I shifted over to finance and accounting, and had to go do some online courses to get back into it. So I definitely wish I would have paid more attention in accounting and finance classes to move into the CFO position that I'm in now. But in general, I think it's just, there are always more things you could get involved in. And at the time, it didn't seem like I had the time to do it, but man, it's worth every moment that you can put into doing other things. You get that or more on the back end.
I think that's a very valuable message that you have there, Josh, because you look at the fact that you graduated with a CIS degree, and now you're a CFO, of a major potato supplier. That's to make that kind of transition is possible. And a lot of students don't see that when they're at the university level. So I love that you bring that to the table today. Thank you. What do you think, Megan?
Yeah, so I think that's a great question, and I'm thinking about it and applying it to my now. I'm really big on mentors, and mentorship has catapulted me to a level that I never imagined. But thinking back, I had some really, really amazing professors, and I really wish I would have created more authentic relationships with them on a deeper level. It's one thing to be in the classroom, but to take those relationships out of the classroom and, go to advisory. Or I remember once sending my resume to one of my professors. She critiqued it afterwards and she said, "Hey, come to my office." Went to her office and she literally ripped my resume apart, but it was so helpful because it pushed me into my greatness. So I would say definitely maximize the relationships that you have with your professors.
Great message. Great message. What do you think, VJ?
I mean, I'll echo that as well. I think creating a great relationship with a mentor is important. I was very lucky to consider Professor Rizal a good mentor, a great mentor. Dr. Deshpande, always people that I could bounce things off of. So in terms of what would I say I should have spent more time on doing, I didn't figure that out until later in my collegiate career. It would have been something that, kids now that are entering college, it is important to consider that your freshman, sophomore year, start early on that, create the relationships that are important. And then also in my freshman, sophomore, even junior year at times, I wasn't as involved in certain groups that would have helped me going forward. So try to be involved in groups, get out, volunteer, whatever it is that's important to you that you think is going to help you going forward, as you progress in your career and as a person. Like those are important things to do, and sometimes it's easy to overlook them because you're overburdened and overwhelmed with all the changes that are occurring and the schoolwork and maturing into adulthood in the sense that like you now have more responsibilities. Like it's important to make sure that you do get out, do get to be part of those groups because those are also connections that will help you going forward.
Right. Networking is huge. John, what do you got?
I mean, I definitely agree with all the panelists for sure. One thing I'll probably mention is the ability to communicate on a high level to a lot of individuals. I think, sometimes in college we shy away from that, professional speaking platform, and we have to really just kind of attack that and leverage that as a skill and create that skill, right? So one thing I wish I could have done better was be a part of SHRM or some other organizations where I'll be able to get in front of people and have that communication to craft that skill at an early age, rather than, like he said, get in my collegiate career and identify that was a big area of opportunity. Those are just things that you can do to kind of better yourself and get ahead of the curve rather than jumping the curve.
And I've always loved this about you, John, but I love the way you verbalize. So to get up there and attack the public speaking instead of being afraid of it, and to figure out the opportunity that exists, I think those are key thoughts. Those are key thoughts to success, and that's excellent. So thank you, John. That's awesome. Greg, what's up?
All right. So, what was the most difficult part of transitioning from WMU to the workplace? And then how were you able to overcome those challenges?
Awesome.
Well,
go ahead, John.
Yeah, I think the biggest transition for me was you're out of the school mentality, right? So for the most part, you go to school, you have your days off, you go to class certain times, you have your days off. You might do this day. But now, you're working in a corporate setting, right? And sometimes you work more than an average work week. And sometimes you don't have that work-life balance like you may think, right? So you have to get accustomed to like change, right? And the change of, hey, this is my new normal, right? This is my new lifestyle. And I really understanding that, okay, although I might not be going to school, now I'm going to work, I had to adapt. So just I think the biggest thing for me was, hey, I have to get in the work mentality where, hey, this is my project and I own this project to the end, rather than, hey, this is just a school assignment, I just have to turn this in, right? And because this project is basically my career, or this is how people are going to view me, right? And people are going to have, something against me if I don't, meet their expectations. So it's really important, really just to kind of attack the work mentality. Well, hey, this is my brand that I'm working on.
Awesome. Fantastic. What do you think, VJ?
I mean, it's similar to that. It's tough to transition from the collegiate atmosphere to an atmosphere where there's now projects on your plate, you're responsible for things, people are looking to you for answers, and you have to provide them upwards deliverables. I think what really helped me was when I started at Deloitte, we had a pretty tight-knit group. Like, there's a lot of us who started together. We were great friends. We could always talk and bounce things off of each other. And then on top of that, I've been lucky, I should say, at every company I've worked for, I have been blessed to have someone who has acted as a mentor to me and has been more or less in charge of the department. So I've always had opportunities that have come from that. And when you develop that relationship, you can ask the questions that you think may be dumb questions. They're not as dumb as you think. Like, everyone's wondering a lot of these questions, but when you're comfortable and you create those relationships with people, you can ask them, and you know what? Your colleagues may not ask it, but that's something you can help them with, but it's something that's important. It's something that always helps me, creating the relationships and asking the questions that afraid to make me look dumb, pretty much.
There's a level of fearlessness in being able to ask those questions sometimes, and a lot like what John just mentioned. You gotta attack it. You gotta get after it, and be confident in those skills to be able to push yourself forward. I love the message. It's awesome. Megan, what do you got?
Yeah, so I'm going to be very transparent. After college, I actually got a job 3 days after graduation. And so that was huge. It was a great accomplishment. At that same time, I took a job within my field, and I took a job where I knew I was getting what I didn't deserve in terms of pay. And so being a woman, understanding the challenges that women face when entering corporate America, I was unaware of those challenges. But I also knew that I wanted to be valued and I wanted to feel worthy. And so I worked for a year. After that year, I requested a raise, and it was a $3 raise. So I was going to be going, very transparently, I was going to be going from $14 an hour to $17 an hour. And my boss told me, he said, Megan, you are great at what you do, but I want you to be more entrepreneurial in your career. And so I kind of took that message and I applied it. And from that's what pushed me into entrepreneurship, was really understanding my own worth and my own value. But I would definitely say that when you're entering corporate America or whatever job or position or career, make your value known, right? Like, confidence is key when you're interviewing, when you're accepting a position and you're walking into your career. So don't be afraid to flex your skill sets or your gifts or whatever you're great at.
Thank you for the transparency, Megan. That's incredibly valuable, and I think that's a lesson that takes a lot of people a long time to learn, is to actually value what it is that they are bringing to the table. It's something that we all take for granted, and it's something that it's the only way we can brand ourselves. So I love the message. Absolutely. Josh, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Megan. Imposter syndrome is kind of what I had in my head, like kind of getting over that. I don't think anybody that doesn't feel that. So, let your confidence exceed your skills sometimes, and I think it'll get you to the right places as long as you're willing to put in the effort to make up for, maybe where you're a little softer in the skill set. But, that's not saying you can't get there someday through, hard work and determination, all the cliche stuff you hear. But I think the other piece is, coming out of college at 21, 22, you're going from a campus of other people of your age and younger to working with, people twice your age, three times your age, and trying to figure out how to work with them while kind of maintaining that confidence without, overstepping your bounds, I think is the tightrope that a lot of young people have to walk when they get out of college. But I think, you kind of find that mentor or someone to kind of help you through that and understand how you're perceived by others at different generations. I think that can be a really valuable asset in your first couple of years out of college.
Very much so. Yeah. Generation gaps are very culturally challenging for some folks. And yeah, absolutely. Great message. Love it. We're going to move on to our second poll question. Jen, if you want to launch that. Our first one, just so you know, was to identify who we have in the crowd. This next question is, what's on your quarantine playlist? We're all stuck inside and pretty bored with life at times. What's on that playlist? What do you guys have on your quarantine playlist? Who's brave enough to answer that one verbally?
It's funny. That's super funny. I actually just downloaded some old school jams and R&B.
Yeah. What do we got?
Soulful like a couple weeks ago, and they have some good songs. And I was like, oh man, I think that's Babyface, and I think that's I think it's some artists I should listen to. So I definitely have some old school jams my parents listened to back in the day on my playlist.
Nice.
I'm currently back.
Come on, what do you got?
So for me, you guys, I'm listening to PJ Masks live. I have a 3-year-old that I'm quarantined with, and I'm wrecked my brain.
Just not okay. That's not okay.
Not okay.
No, I know all about PJ Masks. Oh.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Megan. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Josh, did you say you had something?
Yeah, kind of similar. It's like Disney Pandora, just Disney playlist over and over. I've got 2-year-olds, and that's what keeps them content and allows me to get some work done.
Yep.
I hear you. My family, Disney fanatics, sincerely, and we have Alexa, and all I hear is park music all day long. You can actually play the Disney parks music so that when you're standing in line for rides, that music is playing. BJ, what about you, man?
An old school hip hop kick right now. So I got Nas, Outkast, through Chameleon Air, it'll go all the way to Roddy Ricch and whatnot right now. So
Right on.
a little bit of everything in there.
All right, that's awesome. Little Bombs Over Baghdad going on.
Oh yeah, older than that.
Older than that. All right. Right on. Greg, what's our next question, man?
Yeah. So first off, my playlist has been filled with a ton of 21 Pilots, but if any students who know me, they would know that makes sense. All right. So anyway, let's talk about next question on our list is, how did you know that first, like the first real job you got coming out of college, how did you know that was the right fit for you?
How did you know that's the right fit for you? Josh, you started out with your CIS hat on. What happened, Josh?
Yeah, I got a job with a local HR consulting company right there in Kalamazoo. Actually interned the last few months of my senior year at Western, and then jumped right into, kind of like Megan, 3 days later, I was on a plane to Lincoln, Nebraska, and kind of hit the ground running there. So I spent 3 years there. It was, probably the best job I can think of for coming right out of college, and, kind of finding that cohort of a few other younger people to kind of connect with, and being able to work downtown Kalamazoo was pretty cool. And being able to, get into the technology stuff, and was able to lead it fairly early in my career. So jumped into that leadership role fairly quick, and was managing all the IT. And, I think I eventually looked around, and, it wasn't quite the same fit that it was as far as where my trajectory was going in my career. And, it was the greatest job I could imagine. And it actually led me to where I'm at today, as far as Walther Farms was a client of mine when I was there. So, I no regrets looking back, and was just looking for a little different pace and a little bit different industry to get into to move away from there.
Awesome. Thank you, Josh. Fantastic. VJ, how was your first experience?
So I actually relied fairly heavily on Dr. Langsam. I would speak quite a bit with him to understand, hey, what's the best route for me to go? And because coming into it, I was not that familiar with accounting and what the best options were. So he would always say, look at the big four, look at the big four accounting firms. So then once you're doing that interview process, it's really determining which one was the best fit for you. Something that I wanted to consider in that was minority representation within those firms. So Deloitte and PwC were the two that really kind of stood out for me. And Deloitte made a much more concerted effort to have me come there. So that's how I decided between those two. But really narrowing it down to chasing a big four position was something that Dr. Langsam helped me figure out was the right move for me. So really, it goes back to finding good people to ask good questions too.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, VJ. Awesome. Megan, I think you kind of shared a little bit of that first opportunity with us in the last question. Anything to add to your previous comment?
Yeah, I would love to add to it. So one, yeah, like this question, it really hits home for me, because I think what's most important, right? Yes, like excelling in your first position, but also understanding that your career starts in college, right? And I talked a lot about confidence. Josh mentioned, imposter syndrome, and I wish I would have beefed up my confidence before I entered my first job path. And because of that, I was a little bit timid, when I was going into my first job. What I did love about my first job is that I had a diverse team. And so because I experienced diversity at the highest level at Western, that was a requirement for me as I was moving in corporate America. And since then, I've worked with people all over the world. At this point in my career, I'm a speaker for the US Embassy. Actually, next week I'm speaking to a group of Russians who don't speak English, but I would say that diversity was a requirement. And, now in any venture that I create, I ensure that its diversity is present. But yeah, that really helped expand my outlook on, people, their perspectives, how people work, even working with people in different countries, right? Americans, we have a certain way of looking at things. And when you work with people all around the world, it just exposes you to a higher level of thinking.
Awesome. Yeah, and that global approach, I love that you worked that in there. That's great. John, what about you?
So, my experience at my first organization was at a local credit union in Kalamazoo, Consumers Credit Union, right? And coming from football, we were all about, in that era of football at Western, we were all about culture. So I was really in the midst of, hey, let me find an organization that exhibits a wonderful culture, right? And the great thing about it was Consumers Credit Union did that, right? And when you think about culture, you think about how people interact, their behaviors, how they handle COVID-19, right? Things like that is a sense of culture. And are they inclusive, right? Are they inclusive of the environment of the people that they hire? And that was really the place for me, right? Then it was also a place of opportunity because it was so small. I was able to, go talk to the students at Western Michigan University, go recruit at different colleges, have my hands in operations in HR, and have all these different opportunities. And that was really what gave me the opportunity to go to Republic, because I was so diverse in my experiences within 3 years, right? So if I could tell you one thing, the one thing I would tell you is, don't look at the dollar sign associated with your next move. Look at the culture that you're going to be at, because that's going to set you up for the most money that you'll get from that organization.
I could not agree more.
Yeah, culture is key.
Yeah, I could not agree more. Culture, huge opportunities there with Consumers Credit Union for you to build into what it is that you wanted to get on that next step.
Right.
And without the culture, just don't have the opportunity, right?
Right.
Yeah, right on. Love the message. Greg, next question.
Yeah, so thinking about your involvement when you were on campus, was there some certain skill or experience that you were able to leverage during your first full-time job, or that you can think and apply it to like a certain RSO or activity or event that you went to?
Go ahead, John.
Yeah. So me playing football, and back to make a point, I was really in a diverse team, right? But it also gave me the ability to be a leader and understand diverse perspectives. So when I got into a corporate setting, it was unique for me to, bring everybody together, because everybody wasn't used to being together. Or how I brought operations and labor relations together, I have to learn how to leverage that. People have to learn how to leverage that, because I'm a collaborative person and I love people. I knew how to kind of maneuver and bring those people together so we can be on the same path of success. I mean, I think that's truly important. So for me, I might not have had the managed student management organization or the SHRM like the normal student. However, I had to utilize my experience in athletics to leverage me later in life, and I still do it to this day. Every review that I have, it always says you're good in collaboration, you're good in relationship building, right? And I think that's something that I'm still trying to get better at times, but it definitely set me up for success when I got into my career.
Nice. Love it. How about you, Megan?
Yeah, I would definitely say that MODA, which is Merchandising Opportunities and Design Association. And so I was in the business school. I was a marketing major, and I didn't know anyone when I went to Western. I didn't know one single soul. And so I joined this organization. There were about 100 members. And I remember clear as day, the first day I met like 10 people. Mind you, Kalamazoo is a small city, Western, big school. So I was intimidated, right? I'm like, I don't know anyone. However, MODA really enhanced my relationship building skills. So what John said, like, yes, like building relationships, it's key in your collegiate career. And so from these relationships that I formed, it really helped me exercise my leadership. And from that, small things started to happen during these times. I remember when we were trying to scale MODA because we were giving back the funds that we would make from the fashion show to a nonprofit. And I was like, okay, how can I maximize my skill sets in order to help this organization thrive? And I started to think about what I was great at. And one of those things was marketing and pitching. So I remember I pitched to every single news station and radio station in Kalamazoo, and ended up being on the news. I had no idea what I was doing, right? And a lot of times we don't know what we're doing, right? But if you put your best foot forward, great things will come out on the end.
Right.
Nice. Love it. And would you say that joining MODA was probably the beginning of your journey as far as that networking piece?
I used MODA on my resume. And mind you, you guys, I didn't have an internship like most people, right? And I highly recommend that you do get an internship, but I used MODA as my internship. And on my resume, I highlighted the key things that I helped grow the organization. And that really led me into getting my first job.
Nice. Thank you, Megan. VJ, what do you say, sir?
So, I mean, the big group for me that I joined at Western was Beta Alpha Psi, which is the honors accounting fraternity. And it had sort of a dual benefit for me because I was elected to be the community service officer, which I had a history of volunteering, and I knew at some point in the future I wanted a nonprofit. So while being part of Beta Alpha Psi, I met other individuals who were looking to have careers in accounting and finance. So it helped me in that perspective. But also, while doing the community service officer position, I got the okay to kind of go off the cuff and do things that are a little bit more different. So we did fundraisers at Mongolian Barbecue. We took that money and we went and volunteered and made breakfast for people down at soup kitchens, things like that. So it was like organizing different events that weren't necessarily being done before, which is directly relevant to what I do now. Because I mean, I do have to organize events for Let's Go Detroit. And it also was, as Megan just said, I was one of the few that didn't have an internship that was placed onto one of the large clients at Deloitte. Like when I was put on the GMAC engagement, I was the only one without an internship. And I think it's because of things like joining Beta Alpha Psi, getting involved within that in the community servicing. Different things I learned within that group were things that I think led them to believe that, you know, I would be able to succeed in such an environment.
Nice. Right on. Yeah. So, you know, that it's that community service piece that really, you know, kind of put that into frame for you. That's fantastic. Josh, what about for you, sir?
Yeah, a few I can trace back to Delta Sigma Pi, one being, you know, the president of DSP for a while. You know, that public speaking piece, like John mentioned, just being like, you know, having that opportunity to go in front of 50 students in suits gets you ready to go in front of, you know, 50 professionals in suits, you know, 6 months after graduation. So that really helped me and feel more comfortable at being able to present and walk around the room and just, you know, make it seem like I knew what I was doing. Another big one was, as silly as it sounds, Robert's Rules of Order. I'm using that all the time in board meetings for all of our different entities. But, you know, even if you join a foundations entity or something like that, you know, there's a lot that can help with that. And again, you look like you know what you're doing there. So that is definitely helpful.
Right on. I love that. I love that you're using Robert's Rules of Order. That's you're right. It's a fantastic tool, no question. Greg, what's next, buddy?
Yeah. So I have kind of a two-part question. So the first one is, what is the best way to keep in touch with some of your peers from WMU and to give back to WMU?
Love it. Josh, what do you think?
I mean, the social media makes it pretty easy. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, being able to connect with people every now and then on that. You know, it definitely changes as you get older. You start seeing different types of things on people's Facebook feed, but it's still fun to keep in touch with everybody. And going back to homecoming, always try to make it a point. I'm still local, so it's pretty easy, but just with the young kids, haven't made it the last couple of years, but before that, we had a pretty good track record and hope to get back at it soon. And then that's kind of where the giving back piece, you know, we usually find some time around homecoming to give back. And it was cool a couple of years ago when they were building the Alumni Center to be able to buy a brick with my wife and I and do a donation there. So some of those different unique things are the fun ones to find ways to give back.
Nice. What about for you, VJ?
I mean, in terms of keeping in touch, I think everyone uses social media now, like Josh mentioned, easiest way to do it. But really, in terms of giving back, I mean, there is the monetary option, but there's also other ones that I know a few of us here are involved with as well, whether it's obviously being on calls like this, panels like this, being part of the HCOB Young Adult Alumni Board. So it's there's multiple ways to give back and try to influence and help the kids that are going there now, the kids that will be going there in the future. Yeah, I mean, in terms of keeping in touch, really social media though. I don't think there's much more I can add to that one.
Right on. And but I love the fact that you move outside of the monetary, because it is the support mechanism, the giving back in a way like what you're doing here today, that can make a big difference in the decisions that some students make.
Right.
And that's huge. That's huge. So thank you. Megan, what do you think?
Yeah, so obviously social media, I'll use VJ for as an example, but we've grown in the social media space, our relationship, and in ways we've taken it outside of social media. And when he's mayor, I'm going to be rooting him on as well. So yeah, I would definitely say social media has been amazing, but also in that being intentional about the relationships that you create, putting your value on the table. So if there's someone, I remember when I got Young Alumni of the Year, I ended up meeting Alessandro he's the CEO of Fifth Third Bank of America, one of the banks. But yeah, the Western network is phenomenal. And I don't think when you're a student, you truly understand how gold the network is. But I started realizing that within the last 2 to 3 years. But to touch on what Josh said, yeah, like at this stage in the game, I go to homecoming every single year and we make it a family. It's something that we do every single year. It is ingrained. We know every October we head to Kalamazoo. And actually this year, I'm going to be launching my first scholarship for the business school. So I'm super excited about that. And
Awesome.
just to be in a position to give back. I mean, that's the ultimate goal.
That's awesome. That's really cool, Megan. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think, utilizing social media has been a win from everybody, right? And leveraging that platform to connect with the Megans and the John and Joshes and BJ of the world, right? And I think it's truly important, right? This is just not a panelist, but this is an opportunity for us to potentially mentor you. So I'm taking, mentee applications if you guys need a mentor.
Yes.
Yeah, right. So, and things like being on a panelist and speaking and monetary, those are all, ways of giving back. But, also connecting with the administrators of the world of the HCOP also to, give back to those individuals. So, me and Bob have a close relationship, and, how he gives back to me, I'm able to give back to another individual. So just leveraging good relationships and taking advantage of all the resources that you do have at HCOB has been a whirlwind and a blessing within itself.
Yeah, I completely agree. And John actually espouses that fearless approach, which I love, which is if you want something, you got to go ask for it. You got to go get it. You can't just sit there and wish. It's not just going to happen. So making the effort to communicate with people to get what it is that you're looking for is what you need to be doing as a student.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to ask a question, if that's okay with you, Greg, off of the list, because I think it's pretty pertinent. If you could put yourself in the shoes of students right now, students today, keeping in mind that students don't know what's coming. Students, we have incoming students that may be watching this video as freshmen or first-year students, transfer students, and also the students that we have, regularly at our college that are already attending. They may be confused or a little bit fearful about how they're going to operate this next semester, what with the coronavirus and everything. And so staying on topic with that, as a previous student, as successful as you all are, looking back, if this were to have happened to you, how would you approach this situation?
That's a good one.
And I mean, I don't mean to put John on the spot. Whoever wants to answer it can go ahead.
Well, I'll go ahead and answer just
Yeah, go ahead.
because I have family who are students at Western right now and they had to, come back home. And the first thing that I'm going to say is, adapting to change. I think that is very powerful. Obviously, the pandemic is very stressful on a number of different levels, from a family level, from a financial perspective, from, being uncertain if, what the next couple months are going to look like. But just being open and adapting to change, and if classes are going to be online, being open to that, and really leveraging the time that we have right now to get clear on what your next step is going to be, right? And I think right now we're getting a gift, and that gift is stillness. And when we're still, we get more clarity. When you have more clarity, you can get closer towards your dreams, your goals, and your purpose. And so honestly, as traumatic as the pandemic is, I also think that we can pull out the gems of the pandemic and really utilize that to push us closer toward what we want.
I love it. Finding the opportunity, pulling out the gems. Absolutely. Love that.
I think I will mimic her message definitely. Change is good. And then there's a new norm, right? So people are wondering if we're ever going to go back to normal. This might be the new norm for a significant period of time, right?
Yes.
But, right. So it's all about what you do in this time to get better, right? And this might be your time to perfect the craft. This might be your time to start a business. This might be your time to understand an accounting equation that you haven't understood the last year or so. If you look at this time and you leverage this time to get better and perfect your craft, I think you'll truly be successful, because when you come out of it, you come out of it better rather than sitting at home, chilling, playing a game, or doing things that's going to steer you away from your dreams and your passion. They say when you find your way, you find your why. So continue to find your passion and walk in that endeavor for the most part.
Love it. VJ, what do you say, man?
I mean, both Megan and John were right on the nail, but I think it's different, and at times it's going to be uncomfortable. But I'm a big believer in networking, and if that means that you guys, have to use Zoom or House Party or whatever to make sure you're meeting more of your classmates, do that. Even if it's, for drinks the first time, and then after that, you guys study, whatever. But it's important to get to know the other people in your grade. These are the people that years from now you'll be working with. These will be your colleagues. These will be your teammates. These will be the people that, know something that you don't know that you want to know. When you know that person, you can ask them. Like I can turn, if I have a question about being the best entrepreneur ever, I'm probably going to ask Megan, right? And it's because you've gotten to know someone, you're comfortable asking those types of questions. So it will be uncomfortable. It is a little different. I absolutely agree. This is the time to perfect your craft, determine what's important to you. But I don't think there should ever be a time when we're afraid to step out of the box and be a little uncomfortable.
Right on.
Good one.
Love it. Josh, anything to add? You're on mute, buddy.
I knew I was going to be the one to do that at some point.
My CIS guy is on mute.
Yeah, I think not a ton to add, but yeah, I think these are some new skills where everybody's learning right now. But I mean, the younger you are, the more you can put it into your tool set for later. And like John mentioned, I mean, this might be the new normal for a long time, and even if it isn't for everybody, this could be your new normal to separate where you live versus where you work. And if you can excel in that type of environment, then maybe that affords you some other opportunities somewhere down the road.
Cool. Well, out of respect for time for everyone, I think do we have time for one more question? Or is anybody in a rush to go?
I actually have an 11 o'clock.
You have an 11 o'clock, which you are on the West Coast, so that's right about now. Right on. Well, out of respect for time for everyone, then let's go ahead and call it good. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for being here today, providing some very, very valuable feedback to our students and incoming students. Josh, VJ, Megan, and John, you guys are awesome. You guys are all awesome. Thank you so much for doing what you've done today.
Well, thank you for the
Thank you so
opportunity.
much. This was an
Thank you.
honor.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much. And if any of our students want to reach out to you for this mentor opportunity, would you be willing to share your email address?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. So if you are interested in reaching out to any of our fantastic mentors and alumni that we've had here today, just go ahead and shoot me an email at robert.stewart or robert.stewart@wmich.edu, and I will get that to you. Thank you all so much for being here today, and we appreciate you. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a good one,
Guys,
guys.
bye,
Thank you.
guys.
Take care.